The echo of her mother's words still haunted her. It's for the best, Emily. You'll be taken care of. He's stable, wealthy, and respectable. What more could you need? Emily Carter pressed her palms against the window of her father's study, staring at the long driveway of their colonial-style home in Connecticut. The black car parked outside belonged to the man she would soon call her husband. Drive. Nathaniel Hayes. A cold, brilliant surgeon with a reputation as sharp as the scalpels he carried. But this wasn't love, it was an arrangement. Her father's company was crumbling under debt, and Nathaniel, stoic, untouchable, a man in his early 30s with a face chiseled from stone, had offered a solution. Marriage in exchange for a merger that would save her family's name. Emily was only 23. A dreamer, an artist who sketched more than she spoke, who still believed love should feel like fire. Yet, in less than an hour, she'd be standing before a judge, legally bound to a man who had made it very clear, this is not about love. The wedding. The courthouse was sterile, almost too fitting for a doctor who lived his life under fluorescent lights. Nathaniel stood in a tailored black suit, his expression unreadable. His eyes, icy gray, like winter's first storm, didn't soften when they met hers. Miss Carter, he said with a nod. Not Emily, not my bride, just business. The ceremony lasted no more than 10 minutes. No vows, no rings exchanged with trembling hands, no promises whispered in love. Just signatures on paper and a quiet declaration. You may now consider yourselves husband and wife. When the judge left, silence filled the room. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. Nathaniel reached for his phone, already moving toward the door. Tomorrow morning, I'll have my driver take you to the apartment, he said flatly. It's closer to the hospital. More convenient. Her heart sank. She opened her mouth, desperate to say something, to ask why, to protest, to demand at least the courtesy of conversation. But his phone rang, and his hand was already pressing it to his ear. Surgery at 9, I'll be there, he muttered, disappearing down the hall. She was married, and yet she had never felt more invisible. Life with a stranger. Nathaniel Hayes lived in a world of order. His penthouse apartment in downtown Boston overlooked the Charles River, all glass and steel and silence. For Emily, the first nights were unbearable. He came home late, sometimes past midnight, slipping into the guest room without a word. On rare occasions, he sat at the dinner table with her, but his eyes remained on his medical journals, his mind elsewhere. He wasn't cruel, not exactly. But his coldness cut deeper than anger ever could. One evening, after yet another silent meal, Emily pushed back her chair. Is this how it's always going to be? She asked softly. Nathaniel's fork paused. For the first time, his eyes lifted to hers, sharp and calculating. This marriage, he said, his voice calm, was not meant to provide affection. We both know why we're here. Her throat tightened. Maybe you know, but me, I'm trapped in a life I never asked for. His jaw flexed, but he didn't argue. He only returned to his meal, as if her words were nothing more than static in the air. But she caught it, that flicker of something in his expression. Regret, pain. No, she told herself. He was a surgeon, a man trained to cut without hesitation. Surely his heart was as precise and guarded as his scalpel. The first twist. Weeks passed, and Emily began noticing strange things. Nathaniel would vanish at odd hours, claiming it was hospital work, yet sometimes he returned with shadows under his eyes and a restless tension in his shoulders. His phone buzzed constantly, and whenever she came close, he'd silence it. One night, unable to sleep, Emily wandered into his study. The shelves were lined with medical texts, but one drawer of his desk was locked. A faint scratch on the wood suggested it had been opened in haste many times before. She reached for it, hesitating, then pulled her hand back. The sound of the door unlocking froze her. Nathaniel stepped in, his eyes immediately narrowing on her near the desk. What are you doing in here? His voice was low, dangerous. I couldn't sleep. I was just looking around, she stammered. His stare was ice. Then, without another word, he crossed the room, locked the drawer again, and slipped the key into his pocket. Something was hidden there, and whatever it was, Nathaniel would do anything to keep it buried. A suspicious encounter. One afternoon, Emily decided to escape the suffocating apartment. She walked through Boston's busy streets, eventually stopping at a cafe. As she ordered her coffee, a woman approached her, tall, elegant, with sharp eyes that seemed to cut straight through her. You're Mrs. Hayes, aren't you? The woman asked. Emily blinked. Yes, Do I know you? The woman smiled faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. No, but I know Nathaniel. Something in her tone chilled Emily. Before she could ask more, the woman leaned closer. You should be careful, not everything about your husband is as perfect as it seems. And then she was gone, leaving Emily shaken, her coffee untouched. The growing storm. That night, Emily waited for Nathaniel to return, determined to confront him. When he finally walked through the door, exhaustion written across his face, she blurted out. Who was that woman? He froze. What woman? At the cafe. She knew you. She said I should be careful. For the first time, Nathaniel's calm exterior cracked. His eyes darkened, his jaw tightening. Did she give you a name? He asked sharply. No, but, Emily, his voice was stern, commanding. If anyone approaches you about me, you walk away. Do you understand? Her breath hitched. Why? What are you hiding from me? But instead of answering, Nathaniel turned away, retreating into silence once more. And in that silence, Emily realized something terrifying. She wasn't just trapped in a loveless marriage. She was living with a man who carried secrets big enough to make strangers warn her in whispers. Cliffhanger ending of Part 1. A week later, Emily woke in the middle of the night to the sound of Nathaniel's voice. He was on the phone, speaking in a hushed but urgent tone. No, it can't happen. Not now. If anyone finds out. There was a pause. Then we'll have no choice. Cancel the surgery. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Surgery. He was a doctor, why would he cancel one? And why did it sound like his decision had nothing to do with medicine, but something darker, something dangerous? She crept back into bed, heart pounding. Nathaniel Hayes wasn't just cold. He was hiding something that could destroy them both. And for the first time, Emily realized she might be in more danger than she ever imagined. Emily didn't sleep that night. The words, cancel the surgery, kept echoing in her head. Nathaniel Hayes was supposed to be one of the best surgeons in Boston, renowned for his precision, his discipline, his refusal to let anything compromise a patient's life. So why would he cancel a surgery in secret, whispering like a man protecting himself instead of his patients? The next morning, when Nathaniel left for the hospital, Emily made a choice. She had been quiet, submissive, trapped in a marriage that wasn't hers to choose. But not anymore. She was going to uncover the truth. The hidden file. It started with the locked drawer in his study. For days she had avoided it, but now, her curiosity was no longer just curiosity. It was survival. She waited until his driver came to collect him, and the door shut behind them. Her heart hammered as she searched the apartment for the key. After nearly an hour, she found it, tucked in the lining of his white lab coat. Her fingers shook as she slid the key into the drawer. It clicked open. Inside lay stacks of papers, some medical charts, others letters she didn't understand. But one file caught her eye, marked with bold red letters, confidential. She opened it, her breath catching. Patient records, photos, surgical notes. But these weren't ordinary cases. Every file had a red stamp, terminated. And then she saw the name. Michael Carter, her father. Emily's knees nearly gave out. The date on the record was 2 years ago. The notes described a heart condition, a high-risk surgery that had been cancelled at the last minute. Nathaniel Hayes' signature was at the bottom. Her father had died shortly after that. She remembered the night, the sudden heart attack, the way her mother had wailed. And now she knew, Nathaniel had been the surgeon who could have saved him. But he hadn't. Emily's chest ached, her breath coming in short gasps. She slammed the drawer shut and stumbled back, horrified. The man she had been forced to marry wasn't just cold. He was connected to the darkest loss of her life. Confrontation. That night, Emily couldn't hold it in any longer. When Nathaniel walked through the door, she was waiting, the file clutched in her hands. You knew, she hissed. Her voice shook with anger and grief. You knew my father. You could have saved him. Nathaniel froze. His face drained of color. Emily, don't, she snapped, tears burning her eyes. You cancelled his surgery. You signed it. You let him die. For a long moment, Nathaniel said nothing. Then he set his briefcase down slowly, like a man surrendering. You weren't supposed to find that, he said quietly. Her heart twisted. That's all you have to say. You took my father from me. No, his voice hardened, but his eyes, those cold gray eyes, held something different now. Not ice, but sorrow. I tried to save him. I wanted to. But the board, Emily spat. What does that even mean? Nathaniel rubbed a hand across his face, a rare crack in his armor. Your father wasn't just any patient, Emily. He was under investigation. His company was tied to things you don't know. Powerful people didn't want him surviving that surgery. I got the order that night. If I operated, I'd lose my license. My career. My ability to save anyone. Her stomach dropped. So you chose your career over his life. His jaw tightened. I chose survival. For both of us. Emily stared, her world spinning. Was he lying? Or had her father's death been something more sinister than she ever imagined? The stranger returns. The next day, Emily tried to clear her head with a walk. But as she stepped onto the street, a black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing the same elegant woman from the cafe. Mrs. Hayes, she said smoothly. Get in, we need to talk. Against her better judgment, Emily slid inside. The woman introduced herself as Victoria Lane. You've probably figured out by now that your husband isn't just a surgeon, Victoria said. He's caught in something far bigger. Emily's pulse quickened. What do you want from me? To warn you again, Victoria replied. There are people watching him. Watching you. That file you found, keep it hidden. If it surfaces, your life won't just be difficult. It will be over. Emily's throat went dry. Why are you telling me this? Victoria's eyes softened for just a second. Because once, I trusted Nathaniel too. And it nearly destroyed me. Before Emily could ask more, the car stopped, and Victoria gestured for her to leave. Emily stepped onto the curb, shaken. The puzzle pieces were building, but the picture they formed was terrifying. The breaking point. That night, Emily couldn't hide her fear. What are you involved in, Nathaniel? She demanded, her voice trembling. Who is Victoria Lane? Why are strangers warning me to run? Nathaniel's shoulders stiffened, but when he turned, his face looked weary, almost broken. You don't understand, Emily. I didn't choose this life. I was forced into it, just like you were forced into this marriage. Her breath caught. When I was a resident, he continued, I operated on the wrong man. Not medically wrong, politically wrong. He was tied to people in power, people who don't forgive mistakes. Since then, I've been under their thumb. Every surgery I take, every surgery I cancel, it's not always my choice. Emily's heart pounded. So you're telling me, you're their puppet? Nathaniel's jaw clenched. I'm telling you I've been fighting them quietly for years. And marrying you, it wasn't just about your family's debt. It was protection. If they think I'm loyal, they'll leave you alone. The truth crashed over her like a wave. His coldness wasn't indifference, it was distance, a shield. He hadn't been cruel because he didn't care. He'd been cruel because he cared too much. The choice. Days later, it happened. Emily was at home when Nathaniel called, his voice urgent. They're watching you. Don't leave the apartment. Do you hear me? Don't. The line went dead. Hours later, he returned, disheveled, bleeding from a cut above his brow. Emily rushed to him, fear surging through her chest. Nathaniel, what happened? They tried to make me cancel another surgery, he muttered, collapsing onto the couch. But this time, I couldn't. It was a child, Emily. An 8-year-old boy. I wasn't going to let them take him. Her hands trembled as she cleaned his wound. For the first time, she saw him not as the cold doctor she had married, but as a man carrying a weight far too heavy for one person. You risked everything, she whispered. He looked at her then, his gray eyes softening in a way she'd never seen. For him, and, for you, her breath caught. In that moment, the walls between them crumbled. The twist of love. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Nathaniel stopped hiding behind silence. He began joining her for dinner, asking about her sketches, even smiling, a small, rare thing, but genuine. One night, as they sat on the balcony overlooking the city, Emily whispered, "Why me, Nathaniel? Why did you agree to this marriage?" He hesitated, then took her hand, a gesture that sent warmth flooding through her. "Because the first time I saw you," he said quietly, "you reminded me of something I thought I'd lost. Hope, light. I wanted to keep you safe, even if it meant you'd hate me for it." Tears blurred her vision. For so long, she had believed he was heartless. But now she understood. His coldness had been his armor. And beneath it was a man who cared more deeply than he dared to show. The final act. But the danger wasn't over. Victoria Lane resurfaced one last time, cornering Emily at the gallery where she'd finally started displaying her art again. "Your husband is running out of time," Victoria warned. "The people he defied won't forgive him for saving that boy. They'll come after him, and you. Emily's chest tightened. Then what do we do? Victoria studied her for a moment, then slipped a card into her hand. Disappear. Together. Before it's too late. That night, Emily showed Nathaniel the card. He stared at it, silent for a long moment, before shaking his head. No, running won't solve this. But I can. And the next morning, he walked into the hospital and exposed everything, the corruption, the surgeries cancelled under threat, the names of those pulling the strings. It cost him his license. His career, everything he had built, but it gave them freedom. Resolution. Months later, they sat in a small coastal town in Maine, far from Boston's noise. Nathaniel no longer wore the sharp suits of a surgeon, but simple clothes that made him look younger, freer. Emily's art was selling, her paintings filled with color and light again. One evening, as they walked along the shore, Nathaniel stopped, turning to her. I'm sorry for everything I put you through, he said softly. I know I was cold. I know I hurt you. Emily smiled through her tears, reaching up to touch his face. You didn't destroy me, Nathaniel. You saved me. And now, we save each other. For the first time, he kissed her. Not as part of a bargain, not as protection, but as a man who had finally found the one thing worth risking everything for. Love. Epilogue. Emily often thought back to the night she discovered his secret, to the fear and pain that had nearly broken her. But now, as she painted the horizon from their porch, she knew the truth. She had been forced to marry a cold doctor. But in the end, that cold doctor had given up everything for her. And sometimes, love doesn't come like fire. It comes like ice, slow to melt, but once it does, unstoppable.